Hi, I'm Gabb, and you're listening to the Word of Gabb podcast.
It's so good to see you. So we've met on Threads,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna give you a minute to just introduce yourself and maybe share about your podcast.
All right. Thank you, Anika, right? Am I
Yes,
pronouncing it correctly?
yes.
Thank you, Anika. It was so nice to meet you and belated happy birthday.
Oh, thank
So,
you, thank you.
I'm Gab. I'm from the Philippines. I'm a multi-passionate Filipina, meaning I have too many hobbies to
Ah,
handle. Like I like to draw. I have an art account wherein I do digital art. I also do clay earrings and accessories.
wow.
Aside from that, I have a podcast, the Word of Gab podcast. That's how we've connected. And then um, I'm also a Toastmaster and a mental health advocate here in the Philippines, especially because here in the Philippines, like the mental health scene here isn't actually as wide yet as in other countries. Here, it's not socially accepted yet to set your boundaries and actually communicate it.
Yeah.
So when you messaged me, I was like, okay, yeah, I needed to do this. And then I'm also the vice president of SNS Creative, which is a social media company based in Canada. That's why I'm still awake around this time. Like, I'm in Canada time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you're good. You don't have
That's
to worry
crazy
about it
because
being
you're like, I
here.
don't go to bed until 5. And I was like, wow, okay.
Now you get why.
Yeah, I now I get why. Wow.
So yeah.
I'm gonna ask you now a couple of questions. We're moving into the boundary part. Has there been a time or times when you knew you should have set a boundary but chickened out? If so, explain.
Oh my god. A lot of times. I had to actually choose maybe major ones in my life because growing up here in the Philippines, especially as a woman, the tendency is for you to be expected that you're gonna be courteous, respectful, and open to pretty much everybody. So you kind of bend towards everyone, like especially in the family, in the in that realm or in that aspect in my family. So the biggest one was growing up, people kept saying something about my body. So as you can see, I'm morena, as we call it in the Philippines, like brown
Yeah.
skin in the Philippines. I'm morena, and when I was growing up, it wasn't really viewed as something good. Weird, right?
Yeah.
it's it's and then I have a lot of relatives who has something to say about it. Like, of course, I was a kid. Of course, I was playing outside. Of course, like my skin would darken sometimes. I get exposed to the sun. That's normal. And then the moment they say something about it, I would just nod and say yes, and then accept it. Even my weight, I've grown up to be a plus size girly. I'm already considered a plus size girl here in the Philippines, but when I talk to like other people from different countries, they're like, "No, you're like the normal size, whatever." But here in the Philippines, if you're not stick thin, especially growing up, they have a lot to say. And then I could have set my boundaries and not care about it, and then told them that okay, I will not subscribe to this anymore. But I didn't because the respect that you have for your family, it's kind of that. And then the cultural standards that are set to us as Filipino women, that's what hindered me into setting that boundary because we're expected to be polite, to not say too much, to not be disrespectful, because here sometimes setting a boundary can be viewed as disrespectful even
So
if you're just reacting to what they've done to you.
yeah. So wait, so I have a quick question because when you were saying like about your skin color,
Mm.
are most Filipinos darker or lighter than you get? If being darker was kind of like a
Mm.
got made fun of, or
I would say that most Filipinos are my color, and we could go darker sometimes, but yeah, most of we call ourselves morena, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, we're morena because we're brown skinned, and we're not as white as maybe Koreans, and but people tend to like those. There's like a beauty standard to that. That's why there's a lot of beauty products here in the Philippines. Like a lot of whitening products, actually.
Okay, very interesting. That's why I asked.
Mm.
I really don't know much about your culture at all.
Mm.
And so that's why I'm really curious. That is very, very interesting because here it's like looked at like the opposite in the States. Like there yeah. So that is very interesting.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. But growing up, I was like forced to use whitening products because I wasn't white enough. So, that sounds bad, but I wasn't white enough as a
Yeah,
kid.
that's okay. That's really interesting.
We have this idea of the Maria Clara. If you're familiar to Maria Clara, it's a character in a novel of Jose Rizal wherein Maria Clara is demure, quiet, submissive, always saying yes to other people, and that's how Filipinas should be viewed as before, especially growing up. But now we tend to be a little bit more progressive now because um, Filipinas who are opinionated and are vocal are now more celebrated than before. There's still a lot of backlash with all the misogyny and stuff. Of course, there are traditional Filipinos who were used to Filipinos not talking back, not fighting for our rights and stuff like that. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
like set back here in the Philippines in the
So,
US.
was this like pushed on you by family of like to use these whitening products and stuff?
Pretty much until I was in college.
Right. Wow.
I was like, they always buy me these whitening products that some of them actually burnt my skin
Wow.
as a kid because it's like you're exposed to the sun because you play
Yeah.
outside and then you're gonna use whitening products and that doesn't do well on your skin. Like if you use whitening products, you shouldn't be outside.
No. No. Not at
Like
all. I think
not at
like
all.
yeah, like bleach or something.
Yeah,
Um. Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
really crazy.
that's a big thing in our family, and it's still a big thing when you go to reunions here. Like we call them like the aunties, the titas and titos. It's still a big thing here. Other than skin color, it's the weight that's bothering them so much. Like up until now, that's something they cannot grasp.
A beauty standard.
I think so, yes, as a beauty standard, mostly because they're not used to um bigger women or bigger Filipinas doing pretty much anything.
Sorry. When your family would like, what was the language I guess around this of like here I was at the store, I bought you this for your skin or whatever, use it? Or what was like, how did you know that was like, were there, I guess, like a conversation around it or just like culturally, like you just knew what you had to do?
There are some phrases they always say to me. They always say like, "Oh, your skin is too dark already. Why don't you just stay inside? Why do you keep going outside? You're a girl. You shouldn't be playing outside much. Your skin is getting too dark now. You look how should I say this? It's different in Filipino in our native language. They always say, "Ang itim-itim mo na." It's always itim means dark. You're so dark, something like that. And then as a kid, it's like, why is it such a negative thing? Because they say it in such a negative tone that you're not allowed to be dark skinned. Same
Yeah.
with the body weight. It's like, ang taba-taba mo na. Taba means fat here in the Philippines. So, taba-taba mo na. And then they don't even get why you gained weight or you lost weight. And sometimes, our weight fluctuates. Basically, anything in your body that's not in the beauty standards of the Philippines. Because the beauty standards that we have here in the Philippines is pretty much westernized. So you will be very beautiful here in the Philippines. You are the standard of beauty here. Yeah, believe me when I say that. 'Cause skin, and then your height, and then your nose. Like, even our noses, like, it's naturally this way. We're Filipinos, and it's still a huge
So,
thing.
like, is it because I know, like, here there's like a big trend. Like, first of all, like, for us, like, a lot of people like to get color and like to get tan. So they could
Yeah.
do like fake tanners, they do tanning beds, they're always laying out in the sun to get color because being pale is like you don't want to be that pale white. You want some color on you. And and then like in the US of like lip fillers and like, Botox,
Mhm.
and is that stuff like happening in the Philippines where
This
it's like changing, you have to have surgery or something to change your.
is pretty much the same here. The only difference would be the skin tone. Like, they want to be whiter here, so they have like gluta drips. If you're familiar with glutathione, and then it's gonna be injected to you like a drip.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Okay.
So you could have like a whiter and clearer skin. They say there are other benefits to it, but like whitening of the skin is actually a side effect of it. But yeah, that's the majority of Filipinos here don't want this color. They want your color. So I think pretty much the same beauty standards, just the skin color reversed.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, that's interesting. I'm learning so much from you. So, given that, there were definitely times where, you felt pressured to do things culturally with like beauty standards and stuff, you opted out of not saying anything because of that. At this moment in your life, are you comfortable setting boundaries in all areas of your life? Like, how have you moved from doing what you were told to now kind of finding your way?
Mm. I would say yes, I'm comfortable with setting boundaries with pretty much all the aspects of my life, because another thing that has helped me, I wouldn't say helped me, but I was also bullied since high school to college. So there's, aside from the beauty, there's a lot of stigma here in the Philippines that needs to be broken. There's a lot of smart shaming as well. There was an issue about that, and me picking up as like a smart girl, and people don't
Wow.
usually like it. Yeah, it's weird growing up. It's like I got bullied because my mom was a teacher in the high school I studied in, and then it was a negative thing for my classmates that I excelled and my mom is a teacher there, so they thought that I was cheating in some way, but I really wasn't. I just had a great foundation when I was in elementary school, and then now, anyway, with all of that happening, I felt like when I graduated, I already gave a lot of. Can I swear here?
Oh, of course.
Can I swear?
Yes. Of
I,
course.
I felt like I gave too many fucks around when I was in high school and college, because the peer pressure there growing up, you wanted to blend in, you wanted to fit in the world that they exist in. But after that, I was like, I don't want to fit in to your world if I'm gonna, I'm gonna keep hiding parts of myself that I should be proud of. Like, I should be proud of my skin, I should be proud of my wits. Like, what's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. So after the fuck it all moment, I was like, okay, I don't want to be rude to people because I'm still guided by, of course, my moral compass. And but I have to limit how they access me, because they can't always always be saying something and it always affects me in a negative way. Because if I do that, I wouldn't be here with you. I wouldn't be making my podcast. It's like letting the inner voices win because most of the time the inner voices are from the voices you've heard from the past as well. Like
Yeah.
those are comments from other people before. Like I had an experience as well that another beauty thing in the Philippines that I shouldn't be part of a contest, like a speaking contest, because I wasn't pretty enough in high school.
I am so like so sad for you, but I know that like it's those experiences that make us who we are because that sounds like you went through a lot and like to unprocess all of that that takes a long time and it's a lot of like trauma because yeah, I think there's a way to go about boundaries. It does not have to be mean, and I think that's a misconception that people have, like, oh, because you set boundaries you're automatically mean. No, it's a balance. You're finding a balance of taking care of yourself and doing things for others or whatever, but you cannot just like pour and pour and pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
And like you said, like, if people are being mean to you, that totally hits. Like, and that starts to form a belief in you because you keep hearing that, like, oh, it must be true. Then you keep telling yourself that. And then that's really hard, and you must be very proud of yourself for getting to where you are now because I mean, you've opened up so many new doors of like, opportunities on your podcast to be talking about this and helping others really through your stories.
Yes. It was hard at the beginning because, as I've mentioned earlier, in the Philippines, you're expected to be very respectful and hospitable. Like you have to really bend over for other people because that's why most foreigners go here because they say the Filipinos are welcoming and they're very warm. It's because yes, we are that, but at the same time, we don't know how to set our
Yeah,
boundaries
you
quite
don't
well.
know how to say no.
Yes, we don't know how to say no, especially to new people in our lives, which is something that I have to learn as well. As I set boundaries, is I have to realize how much does this person. I mean, how much do I care about this person for me to bend over, like really move around everything in my life for
Yeah,
them?
and sometimes it's meeting that person halfway. Like, like, okay, maybe I don't feel like going out now, but I do want to go out with you. And so maybe we wait until next week to, make plans or, like maybe it's like I can't help you in this moment with a request that you're asking me to do. But, down the road in the future, if that happens again and I have, I'm available and I have time to do it, I'd love to do it. So it doesn't have to be like, no, never, like, no, it's finding that balance, and sometimes it's meeting, that person halfway. So
It's also amazing how you, when you learn how to set those boundaries the right way, you attract the right people in your life. I have friends now wherein when we make plans, we really check up on each other. And if they say that I'm mentally not in the right space right now to go out, can we move this? And then there's no hard feelings at all. Like, at all. Because, like, okay, go ahead, take care of yourself. It's okay. I could just, we could just plan in the future. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a huge thing all the time. Because
yeah,
it's all that, right?
it's a form of communication, and I think like what you put out, you receive. That law of attraction. Like you're now at like I don't know if you're very spiritual or whatever, but like if you are taking care of yourself and setting boundaries, your frequency, your energetic frequency is much higher. So you're going to attract those other friends who are, where you are, your level. You're now at like I don't know if you're very spiritual or whatever, but like if you are taking care of yourself and setting boundaries, your frequency, your energetic frequency is much higher. So you're going to attract those other friends who are, where you are, your level of like, mental health is important, taking care of myself, setting boundaries, all that stuff is really important. So
I believe
it's nice to have that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I just agreed to you that that's what happened. Well, once you move to that next level, once you've changed from the past mindset that you attract people who have similar mindsets as you. It may not be like completely the same, but the core beliefs are the same. Like setting boundaries are important. Keeping your peace is important. For my friend groups, all of them are like what 5 years and older. Like my friends are like that, and even if I met them, for example, just right now, I have to make sure that we're in the same frequency because I have to protect the peace that I've been, trying to rebuild with all the things that has happened in the past.
Yeah, you have to, like, if you want to set yourself up for success, you're not going to heal in the same environment that you got hurt in. Like, you have to move yourself. A good example of this is like an alcoholic. Like, you cannot have those same friends if you're determined to stop drinking, because all those friends are just gonna like get you back into a cycle. So
True.
I'm gonna ask you the next question. This is really good. I have loved our conversation so far. I've learned so much. What has been the most challenging part for you about setting boundaries, or have you always been a natural?
Oh, I would say I've always been a natural. I've been a people pleaser growing up. The most challenging part about setting a boundary for me is understanding that you are not a bad person when you set boundaries. That it's okay to set boundaries. It's always that mindset that um, it's normal for you to set boundaries because if you just keep on giving and giving people access to you all the time, 24/7, nothing's gonna be left at the end of the day for you and for the people that matter. So that was the hardest thing. It's understanding that you are not a bad person when you set boundaries.
And I think it's like too, like, to think about it, like, you're not only being a disservice to yourself, but you are to the other person too. If you are completely like burnt out or whatever, you cannot show up for that person and give them 100%. And that's not fair. I mean, like that's not fair to you, but it's also not fair to the other person because they're not getting your best self, your performance, your work ethic, whatever it is. Like, they're not receiving that, and that's then you're doing like half-ass work.
Yeah. Like, what's the point of doing it if you're like not showing up completely as you? That's a for me, especially for the people I really care about. So, for example, if a friend is going through something and they need my advice, but I'm already so spent, I turn to my other friends and then I tell them that, okay, our friend needs help. Can someone else support? Because I don't have the capacity to do it right now. I'm also dealing with something. It's like the beauty of it all, finding those people that understands that it's okay It's okay if you're not in that mental space, if you're not in that, like your energy isn't at 100% at that moment for
Right.
that person, right? And then yeah, we say I know we support everyone. We kind of like tag team everybody in the friend group. If you cannot, I will tag someone else to help you.
I like that because it's like it's showing that you still care, but it's like, hey, like I just cannot show up for you in the ways that you need to, need from me, but like working together with your other friends to like still offer that support to your friend without it, taking so much energy from you, and you just like, then you get showing that you still care, but it's like, hey, like I just cannot show up for you in the ways that you need to, need from me, but like working together with your other friends to like still offer that support to your friend without it, taking so much energy from you, and you just like, then you getting, sick or whatever from putting that energy in.
Yeah.
So
And they're like that with me too. Like if I need them and they cannot, cater to my needs right now, we tap to other friends who can cater to. For example, if I need a like love advice or something or work advice, and they don't have the capacity to do so, we tap to other friends. I
yeah,
don't want to drain them as well. So as you set your boundaries, it's also good to respect other people's boundaries.
yeah,
I think that's one thing that's how boundaries become rude is when you just keep on like pushing your boundary but not understanding the other people's boundaries as well.
yeah. It's a two-way street. If you want to be respected, you have to respect others, vice versa. Has there ever been a time where you set a boundary, but the other person was upset about it? If so, how did you handle it?
Well, let's go back to the skin thing, the beauty standards from the family. Answering back to your parents isn't viewed as good here in the Philippines, especially well, in any age you're in. Like you can't really answer back to them. I think pretty much everywhere you can't answer back to your parents. When I finally stood my ground and said, no, I'm not gonna use these products anymore. They hurt my skin. Just let me be. This is my skin color. This is my body. Let me do whatever I want with my body. It was it was a hard conversation that I had with my mom because my mom is the biggest um, critic in terms of my body before. We had to have that conversation that why do I need to be whiter? Why do I need to be thinner to function? Like um I have to explain to her that we are moving to a more progressive state now, that you don't need those beauty standards to be viewed as a successful woman. I could be smart and dark skinned and fat and that's okay. And then she wasn't taking it as good or as easily as, other people because, well, she's my mom.
Mhm.
It was viewed as disrespect. Because why are you answering back to me? Why do you think you know better? And stuff like that. It was a journey for her and for me, for our relationship. Now we're very close. And now the moment in the malls, it's still evident wherein people would, or sales ladies would just offer you whitening products because of my skin. They would offer me, not my mom. Because my mom has way lighter skin than me. And they offer me those beauty products, and then my mom would automatically say, "No, no, no, my daughter doesn't buy those."
Oh, that's really nice. That is. Did
It
I'm
was
Did it take some time to shift from, like her not understanding to like being there where she was, of like really advocating for you?
I would say it took us years, and I had to keep how should I say this? I had to keep advocating for myself because the moment I go back with my word that okay, I want to be light skinned again, it's gonna it's like gonna it's gonna strengthen her belief that I need to be lighter, I need to be thinner and everything. I had to always talk to her and communicate with her that okay, I have dark skin because I was born this way. This is my natural skin color. I'm not even going outside anymore and stuff like that. This is just who I am. And it doesn't make me less of a person. The same way with if I'm gaining weight because I have PCOS or polycystic
Yeah.
ovarian syndrome because I have that. So my so my weight fluctuates a lot.
And it's really easy, and it's really, I'm sorry, it's really hard to manage the weight too because of your insulin. I have a couple of friends with
Right?
PCOS.
The insulin resistance. Yeah. It was hard, and then I was only diagnosed I think 2 years ago, and my mom used to always comment on my weight, like, okay, why don't you go on a diet? Why don't you work out more? Something, something. And then when I was diagnosed, she was like, okay, there's like a medical explanation to it. And then when people outside, I was only diagnosed I think 2 years ago, and my mom used to always comment on my weight, like, okay, why don't you go on a diet? Why don't you work out more? Something, something. And then when I was diagnosed, she was like, okay, there's like a medical explanation to it. And then when people outside, this is what I love about my mom is once she actually gets it, she will be your biggest advocate, like outside, um, with the family reunions, with her co-teachers, because they know me and I studied there, right? When they see me and I'm, in my bigger size, she's gonna say, oh, because Alexa has or Gab has PCOS. That's why. And then she would say, like, okay, you shouldn't be commenting on those things anymore. Because it doesn't make sense. Like, what's the point, right? What's the point of saying, oh, you've gained so much weight? Or
Yeah.
you lost so much weight? Okay, and
No, it's just like I see a lot of. It's really common for their own insecurities, like our parents, our grandparents, or whatever, from their life experiences and what they've learned. The generational what they've learned, and it's hard because she's probably coming out of her own
yes,
fears for you.
definitely.
Yeah, it's hard.
Her biggest advocate right now because as she grows older and being in the menopause state, of course, you will gain some weight and
Yeah.
your body will change. And then she gets sad whenever she feels fat or whatever. And I was like, no, you're still like you can be what a few kilograms heavier and still be beautiful, and that's okay. I mean, at your age, you have three grown ass children, and then you're worried about your body. And at her age, she's very gorgeous. So it's like, okay, you've advocated for me. Now I'm gonna advocate for you because, yeah, as you've mentioned, it's their insecurities projected to you most of the time.
Yes. Yeah, and it's sometimes it's really hard for them to understand, but I think you did a really good job of like you have to keep standing up for this and setting those boundaries because then it shows that person like, oh, okay, like she is serious. She, what
Mhm.
she's saying, is true. She's like following through. You have to follow through on your word and your act, with actions. And so you doing that like really shows her like, okay, like now, like, yeah, it's not just like a joke or she's just gonna do it one time. Because like people are usually thrown off when we're not, it's a norm. We've gone and done things a certain way for such a long time, and then
Yes.
you're switching up on them, and they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And so like sometimes like they have been benefiting from your from you not having boundaries or whatever it is, or like change is hard. Your mom is probably had seen you and been like, what? Like, this is not my daughter, because you were changing and setting those boundaries and growing the way you did. But I really love that. Like, you can be a role model for her and an inspiration for her as she learns how to accept herself and, be able to, talk to herself nicely and not be bothered by putting on a couple of here in the U.S. it's pounds, so I don't know kilograms. I don't know how many kilograms or pounds. We're different. We had to be different in that sense. So, but like putting on some weight. So I mean, it's just having that like foundation of like self love is like really powerful, and it gets you a long way. And like having respect and love for yourself, then you are setting boundaries, and then you are talking to yourself nicely, and like you just you overall your happiness, this is like something I do with my clients, so is going to be better, and you're going to have long-term happiness. Whereas like this mindset, if you're just in this negative spiral, you're going to stay like that. And so I like love what you're saying, because I think your mom is probably really grateful to have you be teaching her these things.
It's amazing how as simple as setting boundaries was the first step for me to really assess what do I need and how do I help others as I try to fill in my cup again. Because being bullied for years, I was like in a negative. So I had to fill it in with a lot of new things, with experiences, with the right people around me and stuff like that. And then now that I'm in a space wherein okay, I'm good. I know how to protect my peace. I know how to set boundaries. That's where the voices tend to you know be quieter now, because I don't care anymore. You see me as fat, and that's not your thing. Okay, that's your thing, but that's not how I see it. I still see myself beautiful regardless of how many pounds I put on, regardless of
Yeah.
how dark my skin is, regardless if I'm too loud or I'm too vocal about the things that I'm passionate about. If that's not your cup of tea, okay, stay away from me.
Yeah.
You're not. It doesn't. We don't have to fight on what should be beautiful or what should be right on in society standards. I have my beliefs, and once that I've formed, I think, my core self or my core beliefs, that's when it started radiating outwards. Like that's when my mom became more progressive. Even my brothers are more progressive. My friends, I have friends who started wearing clothes here that are showing a little more skin. Because here in the Philippines, again, when you're on a bigger side, you can't really wear sleeveless or things that show your cleavage. So stuff like that. They were very picky on how you would dress yourself if you're on the bigger side. And then I have friends who were like, "Oh, I started wearing my sleeveless shirts or because I saw you wore yours and you look
Oh,
about it." And then there are also times when because I take dance classes sometimes and then I post it online. And then there's this one friend who was like, "Oh, I started dancing again because I saw you dance." Like this
wow.
whatever, right? So I was like, okay, the moment I set my boundaries and say that okay, I'm not gonna subscribe to whatever belief you think is right for me, that's when I started being myself, and that's when I started influencing others around me in a good way. to be more comfortable
That,
with themselves, right?
you must feel so like happy about that because like I love that it just gives you like more inspiration of like and like okay like I'm doing this and it's really like changing people's lives and I think like it's empowering. That's the
It,
word.
it's nice to hear those stories because that's not really what I aim for. Like, well, my goal is to just live the life I want. It's in a way that I wouldn't be stepping on other people, and if that inspires others, that's like a plus for
Yeah.
me. It would be amazing.
No, I think that's great. I think like you know leading by having an being authentic and leading by that living your life like people are gonna notice like they're gonna be looking they're gonna be like oh wow like she seems a lot happier just giving zero fucks and and like that like why I it's you're not going to be happy long term if you are not happy with what you do, with what you wear, with like who you are, like hanging out with your friends. And like if you're like not opening up and like being who you really are, because then it's just like you're also just creating like bullshit relationships that like you can't have a deeper relationship because you're just lying about who you are and like that's just not going to get you anywhere. You're going to feel really unfulfilled.
Yeah, you're gonna feel like it's draining. It's like putting on an act for everybody every time.
Yeah.
It's just before as a people pleaser. Before I had to be this persona that's acceptable for them, but it's very tiring. It's like being an actor every fucking day for them.
Yeah.
So
It's exhausting.
no, not anymore.
Yeah.
Which
Woo!
you just like, okay, no, no, nope, nope, nope. I'm all done. You're like that randomly, like, with all the things that you. It's not even like a big thing that has happened. Sometimes it's just one random Tuesday night, and you're like, oop, I'm done. I'm done. I need to unsubscribe to what those
Unsubscribed. Yeah. I like that.
subscribing to you guys.
I love that. Well, I'm just gonna wrap it up. If you can just quickly where to find you, where can we find you, my listeners, and just kind of like again, thank you so much for taking this time. I really love learning about different cultures and just like learning about different countries and the world and history and all of that because like it really opens up a whole different perspective. And thank you for giving me that tonight because I've learned so much from you. And I'm sure back home there are people so lucky to have you, speaking up for, and being authentic.
Thank you. All right. People can see me on Instagram at Word of Gabb podcast, and on Spotify, my podcast, Word of Gabb podcast. Gabb is Gabb, so two B's. And I release an episode every 2 weeks, every first and third Thursday. I just released an episode yesterday. So
Okay, perfect.
it's all about finding your life systems, meaning how do you maneuver the 24 hours a day without the overwhelm
Ooh,
of, writing everything down. Because, as I mentioned, I have a lot of things that I like to do. Like, I'm multi-passionate, so I have to make sure that I have my system. So, yeah. And I would really love to connect with them on Instagram, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts. It was like the podcast should have been just for the Philippines, but I see that there's like reach outside as well. So if there are parts that you don't understand because I'm speaking in my native language, I usually translate it to English too.
You,
Yeah, and aside from Instagram, I also have my Facebook page, Word of Gabb Podcast. I just post updates and everything, but I'm open to chatting with anyone who wants to connect. So,
yay, I love that.
a nice
And
chat.
then, so, my name is Anika Desloge. I am a happiness coach, and I work with women and help them advocate and for themselves and create a happy and healthy life. You can find me. I am mainly I'm more active on TikTok, and that's at Anika Desloge. ANIKA DESLOGE. And then on Instagram, I'm at _Delodge. And then I do have in my Instagram bio, I have a link to some of my free resources and Facebook group. I do have a Facebook group called the Happiness Lounge. And so I just share tips bite-sized tips that you can use and implement in your life to create a happy and healthy life. And I'm doing workshops in there, exclusive workshops. So I have 2 lined up for the rest of the year. So yeah.
We'll make sure to link all of them.
Yeah,
in the show
that's
notes.
what I thought. I was spelling everything out, but
It's okay. It's okay for the listeners, but we'll make sure that all of the links are there. And yeah, thank you, Anika. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. Have a rest of your day. Good rest of your day. I was gonna say have a good night, but
It's okay. Have a good night, Anika. And
thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Word of Gabb podcast. If you like this episode, please like and share it on your socials. Feel free to tag me at Word of Gabb podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And before I leave, I just want to remind you that if someone tries to dim your light, blind them. Talk soon. Bye.